Good day, everybody. John here with Alpha Motorsport, and today we are actually going to be doing a couple of things to the BRZ. Now, if you've been following along, you'll see that I've gone ahead, and at this point, we've got the buckets installed. I don't know if you can see that behind me here, but we're also going to be installing the roll bar later today. I'm going to my buddy Scott's shop, where we've got the bar all fabricated, and we're actually going to be welding it into the car. So I'm excited to get that going. It's a fairly permanent process. I don't think that well, I mean, it's reversible to a degree, but it's a commitment, needless to say. So in any event, today, at the moment, in this video, what we're going to be doing is installing a drive shaft shop carbon fiber drive shaft. That's right. Say that 3 times fast. What are the benefits to installing a carbon fiber drive shaft? Well, it is literally half of the weight of the stock or OEM drive shaft. It's a one-piece unit, so you're removing the carrier bearing, removing any unneeded or unnecessary flex or slop in the system, so it's a direct and more positive feel when you accelerate. And because it is half of the weight, that rotating mass, you're reducing that by half. So it's going to essentially help the car rev quicker. I don't necessarily think it's going to net you any more horsepower, but in terms of the acceleration and the feel of the car, this should dramatically improve. So I've got everything behind me here, and I'm just going to show you what you're going to need in order to do this install. Alright guys, so as you can see, I've got out the necessary tools that you're going to need. Now, because you're going to be removing the OEM drive shaft from the transmission, naturally when you remove the yoke end, which is this guy right here, you're going to be losing transmission fluid. And here's an opportune time to replace that transmission fluid. Depending on the mileage of your car, it might be advantageous to replace it with an alternative fluid. And in this case, I've elected to use the Motul Gear 300. Highly recommended. I think one of the key benefits to using this more than its, properties as an oil is the fact that it's got an integrated spout built into it. So that's handy, especially when you're doing it yourself, as you can see on jack stands on my garage floor. So I should note, I'm not going to show you how to jack a car up. You should figure it out by now. But what you want to do is essentially jack the car up and make it level. And I've conveniently taken my leveling tool in my iPhone and have basically jacked the car up and then place the level right here. And as you can see, we're within a degree. If I go to different spots, you can see that we're about as good as, there we go. We're about as good as we're going to get really in this, kind of environment. So ideally you want to get it to level as possible. Also, you're going to need a drain pan because you're going to be obviously draining the fluid. The transmission takes 2.2 quarts, and the differential, because I'm going to be doing the differential while I'm here, takes 1.2 or 1.3. So 4 bottles should do the trick. 5 bottles would definitely be handy for just in case you have any spills or lose any fluid. You're going to probably want a trouble light because it's a little dark down there. And I've got my little impact, my electric impact here, just to remove all the 10 millimeter undercover bolts. That'll make things much quicker. You're going to want a torque wrench to torque, obviously, the drive shaft, the differential end, but also the drain plugs. You're going to need a 10 mil hex socket to remove the drain plugs. You're going to need a 14 mil to remove the bolts from the drive shaft and from the carrier, and you're going to need a 10 mil to remove those underbody bolts or underbody panel bolts. And then you're going to need a couple of open-end wrenches just to do the yoke, to do the differential end of the drive shaft. So this will help, and of course an extension is always handy as well. All right, so now we are going to have a look at this drive shaft. I just picked it up yesterday, and literally picking up the box, it was definitely a lot later than you would expect for a drive shaft. So I used to work as a parts person at a dealership, Honda to be specific, and we used to replace drive shafts in older CRVs, and the 2-piece units were heavy as, they would actually come in a wood crate. That's how heavy they were. So this is really nice. So we're going to have a look and see what it's like. Oh, yeah, that's a nice unit there. And Drive Shaft Shop is known for the quality. We've got aluminum ends, you know, these billet aluminum ends. So, high quality bearings. This should be fun. Alright, now to get under the car. So, we've gone ahead and have removed the cover. And if you guys are curious on the Subaru BRZ TS, here's the magical STI braces that they put in that connects, I don't know if you can see that here. I'll switch it around. That connects to the subframe, to the other part of the chassis. These are supposed to be like hydraulic or something, or like some sort of Heim joint, but anyway, you can see there's, I don't know how much they do for stiffening, to be honest with you. Like, I can see that visibly move as I pull on it, so I'm sure it helps with deflection. But anyways, yay, buy a TS. So this is our drain, and that is our fill. So the idea now is we're gonna loosen the fill slightly, just to create you know, an air pocket, and then loosen our drain and watch all the fluid dump out, hopefully not all over the floor. Cool. And if you're living in an inclement part of the country where there's a lot of road salt, now would be a good time to, you know, hit all this stuff up in your lines and whatnot with some asphalt spray or some coating, you know, for additional corrosion prevention. This car doesn't ever see any road salt or any winters, so I don't know if I'm going to be putting any on here, but for you guys that do, that would be an opportune time. Alright, let's get draining. So as you can see, we've taken out the drain, and we've taken out the fill. Now my suggestion is don't take out the fill entirely. Start removing, like, just loosen off the fill and remove the drain slowly, and then what you'll find is it'll drain very slowly, so it's not just going to come pouring out. And then once you get your drain pan kind of situated properly, then go ahead and remove the fill plug entirely, and then you'll find the fluid's going to come out very quickly, but at least you'll have your drain pan in the right spot. Now, moving forward, so here is our fill plug, guys, and then here's the gasket. So you can see here, I can't tell if it's aluminum or steel. Feels like aluminum, it's just so light. I mean, it's just a standard gasket. Some guys reuse them. I mean, for what they're worth, it's just a better idea to just get a new one. But here's, you know, our drain. Now the gaskets, just so you guys know, they're the exact same size. Here's our drain, and as you can see here, you could just see, and this car's got, you know, just over 10,000 kilometers on it, you know, so that's like, I don't know, about maybe 60,000 or 6,000 miles rather, guys. And you could just see, like, just on the drain, on the magnetic, it's magnetic, so it collects. You could just see, like, there's little bits of metal there, naturally from break-in, from the synchros, you know, from the teeth, the gears, but no big pieces, which is good. But I mean, if you were to do this, you know, pull it off and just kind of rub it in your fingers, you can definitely feel some particulate there. So it's wise to clean this guy off. Use a little bit of brake clean if you want. Get it completely clean, just so, you know, the next time around it can continue to collect, you know, little debris moving around. You can see my finger, it's got a bit of a metallic shade to it now because of all the little pieces of, you know, metal that's floating around in the transmission. So again, I mean, always a wise idea, especially if you track the car, or if the car is driven, you know, rather hard. Fluids are the least expensive by far, you know, kind of preventative maintenance you can do to any car. So it's worth the money to change the fluids on a regular basis, probably more so than the manufacturer's suggested guidelines. Again, if the car is driven normally and you don't really drive it very hard, you know, sticking with the manufacturer's suggested guidelines will be fine. But if you're tracking it, if you're driving the vehicle hard, you enjoy those nice Sunday trips or those, you know, little canyon runs for you fortunate guys out in California, you know, then it's worth the money to change the fluid. So, all right, we're gonna get to the dealership, pick up some new gaskets. I'm gonna remove the diff ones now, get everything fully drained, and then that way, by the time I get back from the dealer, everything should be completely drained out. All right, so we're underneath the diff now, guys, and as you can see, moving up, there's the car. Oh, looks like I'm dripping a bit of training fluid on the ground. Oh well. So this is our fill. This is our drain. So right now we're gonna get to removing these bad boys and draining the fluid out of here. Yeah, it's fun times. So far it's going pretty good though. I'm going to try to demonstrate as best as possible. I've cracked these loose. So basically what you want to do is just kind of back that out a little bit. You can actually start to hear a bit of air move through it. And then, you know, kind of put the GoPro here. Because, you know, I have a slight suspicion that this is going to make a fucking mess. And now what you want to do is crack this loose. Just kind of gradually work it and be prepared. Because it's going to, and now's a good time. You'll see sometimes the gasket will stick to the surface, so it's a good time as you're removing the plug to kind of just loosen the gasket before you get it all out, because the gasket will stick to the surface of the diff. So before you go and pull the fluid and then have all the fluid come out and then the gasket dump into your pan, try to remove it so that it drops free and stays on the bolt. And get ready to make a mess, because that's usually what happens. Putting some, you know, paper towel down, or like in this case I've got cardboard, goes a bit of a long way here. So we can hear the air, and I can tell we're at the edge, and it's going to come. Okay, we're fully unthreaded at this point. And, ooh, and go. Oh, not bad. Not too shabby. So you can see how it's coming out right now. So if we take the, and you just keep backing out this guy here, the fill, it'll come out. Once we take the fill out entirely, it should just come out. There you go. See? I don't know if you can see that, but once you take the fill out entirely, you can see it just comes out in one continuous motion as opposed to a glop, 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 glop. Ew, looks like there's definitely some debris on that. And that's what you want to do. Just kind of let it do its thing. Leave the pan there for a bit. Alright. So we'll let that drain. Alright guys, so here we have our trainee fill, drain, gaskets. Now, gaskets, as I said, for the transmission are the same. They feel to be aluminum in nature. The diff ones, however, are different. They are a steel crush gasket. So you can tell by looking at these, they're similar to what you would find like a oil drain gasket, where it's kind of like a beveled or layered gasket, so that when you torque it down, it basically just crushes, just as the name implies. This guy, again, appears to be the same. Now, they appear to be the exact same in size, but I think they're different in thickness. So, yeah, I don't really, to be honest, now that I've taken them off, I don't really know which one is which, but they appear to be the exact same in terms of their diameter, or circumference rather, but they would appear to be different in thickness. One appears to be slightly thicker than the other, but for all I know, that could just be basically how they were torqued. Who knows? Maybe one was torqued more than the other. No, I suppose this one looks a bit thicker. But in any event, we're going to head to the dealer and see if we can get the replacements. And then here's our magnetic drain plug from the diff. We've gone ahead and have cleaned that up, obviously, and this is all the grime that had come off it. It's more fibrous, I find, because, you know, you've got a plate clutch type diff in the rear, so, you know, you're dealing with finer particulate in there. So we're all set as far as the drain procedure is concerned. we're just going to head off to the dealer now and get ourselves some drain plug gaskets. And drain and fill, I should say, and then we should be set to go. Alright guys, so we've gone ahead and we've removed the factory drive shaft. As you can see, here's the factory unit. It's a 2-piece unit and with a carrier. So with these additional joints that you have here in the carrier bearing, this is going to create more slop in the system, and naturally all of this is much heavier than a single piece unit. And also because it's a single piece, it's going to be significantly lighter. And so we're excited for that. I just want to mention that this, you're going to want to have a breaker bar or an impact handy, because the bolts at the very end at the diff side, these guys were really difficult to take out. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to actually clean the face of the diff, per se, yoke, I guess, where it mates up to it, with just like an abrasive pad. There's a little bit of rust, and I'll show you guys right now. And I've got this neat little scrubby thing that I had with my time at work. I'm making a mess. Don't you love working in a garage and everything starts to get in your way and you're tripping over everything and sockets are rolling around? So follow me beneath the car, if you will. Alright, so you can see here, see if I can grab my light. You can see that there's obviously a buildup of just some surface rust, some flash rust on that. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to clean it up with the abrasive, and I'm just going to apply a little bit of bearing grease, you know, just a gentle amount on there, just to kind of keep that face from corroding. It'll also keep the surfaces from mating to each other with corrosion, so if I ever have to replace the drive shaft, it's not going to be super difficult. So we're going to do that. Now, I've read mixed reviews. Some guys will recommend actually applying a little bit of Loctite to the differential bolts when you're putting them back in. You know, for what it's worth, I'm going to apply just a very small amount and torque them down, because I don't want these things to come out again. I was able to remove it without actually having to remove the exhaust, as you can see. Once you slide the yoke out of the transmission, flip it around. Once you slide the yoke out of the transmission, you just got to move the drive shaft back ever so slightly, and then you can remove the carrier from the void right here. So that was pretty much it. And then of course you need a rubber mallet to just knock it off of the diff end. So we're going to clean this up, apply some grease, and get the carbon one installed. Alright, so guys, I don't know if you can see, I've applied a liberal amount of grease on the end there, cleaned the surface of the flash rust, and now we are going to put the drive shaft in. So, let's see if I can set this up here. Oh shit, flying on everywhere. That's cool. That should be a good angle for you guys. Okay, thank God this drive shaft weighs significantly less than the OE. So what you're going to want to do is get real narrow underneath the car so you can kind of bring the drive shaft over. Yeah. One day I'll invest in a shop with a hoist and everything else and not have to go through all this. But in the meantime, c'est la vie. Okay, so now that we've kind of manhandled this bad boy, what you're going to want to do is shimmy your way down, and we're going to take the yoke end here, and we're just going to want to guide it in. Gentlemen, you're probably familiar with this method. Don't need to really go into a lot of detail as to the importance of guiding your shaft in the hole. So I think we all agree we can figure that one out on our own. Alright, so once we've found the gears and it's kind of slid into it, you want to be able to like kind of put it in the transmission. It's important to note that you want to leave your transmission in neutral and your e-brake off so that you can do this, right? So once you've inputted the yoke into the transmission end, you want to just kind of confirm, you know, that it rotates, and I can hear gears moving around. And then we're going to back it up, because there's always a little bit of play here. We're going to back it up to the diff and just kind of line it up with the bolt holes. And because we've applied grease, this is going to make that process a lot easier. So There we go. Bada boom. Now what we're going to want to do is you're going to want to just kind of keep, you're going to want to brace yourself a bit because you don't want this bad boy falling on you. You're just going to want to take one of the bolts and just fire it through the hole to kind of, hold it in place for the time being so it doesn't end up on your face. And that's, oops, I lost the washer. And that's it. I'm going to apply just a very, very minimal amount of Loctite. I hope that camera was on a good angle. If not, it's wide angle. I'm going to apply a very minimal amount of Loctite on the insides of these nuts, just so when we tighten these bad boys up for this guy here, you know, it doesn't back out or anything. I also like to get into the habit of using warranty seal, kind of the paste that they use out of the factories that a lot of places use, as you can see. You know, even the drive shaft shop has noted here, just to mark, you know, I'm going to mark the bolts after they've been torqued so that I know they haven't, you know, backed off or nothing, you know, silly has happened with them. It's also a good idea to do that with the drain plug bolts as well. That way, you know, from time to time when you get underneath the car, you can kind of just poke your head underneath and have a look and just see if the marks are not lined up, then you know something has backed off. And it's a good time to get a torque wrench on it. And I do that with everything. You'll probably notice here see on that guy right there, because I replaced the bushings on that guy right there. Even on the suspension bolts on the other side, I've done that. And call me anal, but I'll go over to the transmission side, and you can see I've done that there too when I put in the positive shift mount from Whiteline. So, you know, it's inexpensive insurance, and again, when you're working on the car, as I am right now, I just get underneath and literally all I do is just look at the marks and just make sure nothing is backed out. It's perfect. Little added insurance, and this way you don't really question if something's not right. It's pretty easy to figure out. So that's in there snug. It seems to be good. And again, there's a seal on the end of the transmission that kind of keeps everything going. It's important that when you're guiding the yoke part into the tranny, that you are very careful not to poke or damage that seal. Just be careful, you know, because that seal, it's just really a friction seal, and if something happens with that seal, then you could be leaking out tranny fluid everywhere, and I think we'd all agree that's less than ideal. Alright, so I'm going to button this all up. We're going to refill the fluids, put in our drain and fill plugs, call it a day. Perfect.